affirmation today, I make room for Christ. This has sort of become my traditional Christmas message, and I love sharing this with everybody. First of all, we're going to start by drawing a box. So you'll draw a simple box, and then at the top, you'll draw basically a roof line, so you have a house. And for the time being, we stop right there. When Christ was born, everybody, I think, is familiar with the story that Mary and Joseph had gone into Bethlehem for the census, and because everybody was there for that census taking, all the rooms were taken, and there was no room at the inn. There was no room for Mary to give birth to Christ. And it's interesting because this could be such an analogy for us. So as we draw this picture, imagine, and maybe even put in some lines inside your box so you have different sections, because we all have different elements of our life that keep us from letting Christ in fully to be a part of our life. So in one box, I know that I had done this exercise many years ago. This is actually a message that Pastor Mike used to give around Christmas, and so it's very meaningful in that we're talking about all the different things that occupy our heart and our lives that prevent us from fully and completely letting Christ be in us and within us. And these are things like fear, and I think a lot of us walk through the journey of life with fear for different things. Fear that, oh, what is the doctor going to say when I go, and what's that diagnosis going to be? Or fear when you look at the checkbook, how am I going to take care of all my obligations this month when there's so little coming in? Or fear, especially during this time, oh, I have to get together with the family and there's going to be this conflict. Or fear when you go out into the world, if you go to look for a job or any circumstance or situation that you're in that you feel reserved or you feel some fear about. So fear can be a bad thing because we become so obsessed with it and we focus on it so much that we block out these prosperous, Christ-like thoughts. In another box, we can put in other issues like jealousy. We see that a lot with a lot of people in life, especially when we look at our neighbor who has the bright, shiny new car or has the big house, or the wonderful children who all just graduated from Harvard and MIT and are doing wonderful things when maybe our children aren't doing all the wonderful things that we had hoped they would do. And so we become a little envious and we become a little jealous of them. And of course, having this in our heart, this is another thing. It takes up another room, so there's not a room for Christ to come in and be born within us. We have anger and hate, and all of us, I think, at one time or another become angry and hateful. I know I just had an issue yesterday. I'm sure a lot of us, as we move into this computer age, we get so frustrated when companies and organizations out there want you to do everything on their website, and you register for something and it says, no, you already exist, but then you put in the information, it says none of it matches, and it's so frustrating for a simple thing like filling a prescription. And so I remember at the moment feeling so angry and hateful. And of course, when I took a few steps away and, as Chrissy was saying, became more centered, I realized, it's fine. I'll call him on Monday. It's not the end of the world. They're not going to deliver it anyways. But we get to that place and we squeeze out the love. We squeeze out all these Christ-based things that we know as New Thought students. These are the teachings. These are the things that we need to embrace. And then in our bottom corner, what's another challenge that people walk through? Share with me somebody. Criticism. Oh my gosh, yes. Well, there you go. That's my other big one. Being judgmental and criticizing people. And of course, when we do that, when these thoughts come into our mind, there's no room for love and acceptance, because if we're busy being judgmental and critical, how on earth can that love and understanding come in? So this being Christmas is a great time to use this metaphor in life. Think of yourself. We are all, as we are told in the scriptures, our body is a temple. So your temple or your inn, how full is it with all these things that keep Christ out? Are you making room? In fact, our question for the week is, what is cluttering up my inn? So as you're going through the week, especially as we approach Christmas and Christmas Day, and a lot of us start meeting up with our family and friends and loved ones, and sometimes we have fractured relationships over some slight or something that was said many years ago that possibly nobody remembers. They just remember that hate and that anger or that frustration or that judgment or criticism. What is cluttering up your inn? What is keeping the Christ out of you? What is keeping you from living the Christ-like way where you are loving and forgiving and caring and all these wonderful things that we as New Thought students read about and we strive to be. And of course, it takes a while to get there. That's why we don't call ourselves New Thought scholars. We're New Thought students because we're still learning. We're learning as we go. And I know I've been involved in the church some 12 years now, and I feel like I'm just an infant in the process of learning all there is about New Thought and all the things that God had intended for us and how to become very, very Christ-like. And of course, that's a challenge for so many of us because as we know in the scriptures, when Christ would heal the sick and the dying, he turned to his disciples and had said, "You'll do all this and more." And it's just a matter of being able to connect with that divine source and not having all of these things cluttering up your life and your mind and your heart that keep you from having that connection, that keep us from being able to do all these things. Because we start as children, and as we all know, we all learned growing up, you can't do this and you can't do that, and no, that's not the way this happens. And so we walk with all this baggage, and it can take us years to throw it all off so that we do have room in our inn, so nothing is cluttering up our hearts and our minds, so we can be more Christ-like and we can express ourselves with that divine connection so that we do have the power to do all great things that Christ intended us to do. So the good news is that making room in our hearts, in our minds, and in our everyday lives is up to us. It is completely up to us. We can clear away all that blocks our connection to the divine and enjoy lives of great happiness, health, and prosperity. And many of you know I talk about that all the time because we as students of New Thought know that that is what God had intended for us. We are to live our lives here in this plane with great happiness, great health, and great prosperity. And we should feel free to pursue all those things because that's what was meant for us. That's our divine right as children of God, created in the image of God, because we know that God is perfect, therefore we are perfect, and we are perfectly able to live lives of great happiness, health, and prosperity. And that definitely is the good news. So keep that in mind as you walk through the week, especially Christmas Day, when, as I said, some of us were going to find ourselves in situations and circumstances where we're seeing relatives and friends and people that sometimes we have a little friction with, and we're holding on to old things. We're cluttering up our inn. So envision yourself welcoming these people into your lives, into your home. They're going to stay with you. You've got that guest room that's filled with all those old boxes. You're going to throw them out. You're going to empty all that garbage out and open up wide and allow these people in and allow yourself to live a life of great happiness, great health, and great prosperity, which is what we are absolutely intended to do.